like breakfast tacos are just my religion.
Yeah, I love making tortillas from corn that I grow. I mean, it's one of the most magical things you can do in life is to do that, grow the corn and then make tortillas out of it. And then with beans that you grew and squash that you grew, 3 sisters all in a meal. My friend, she came and visited and literally cried right before we were going to eat because we'd put so much energy into this meal. And it's just, you can't explain. You have to do it.
Yeah.
But as far as back to the brown rice, there's this spot, you probably know, Shangri-La Vegan.
Yeah.
And it's like Tibetans and that's one of my favorite places. And they only do brown rice, but I think it's a good lesson. You could eat there and you learn because they just do one small scoop of it in the middle of the plate, and then with all these veggies and the beans and the salad. And so it goes, if you do the brown rice, you don't need very much,
Totally. Yeah, it's a thick thing.
I think we're a little off topic.
No, dude, there's no such thing on here, bro. Welcome to the Bartcast.
Thank you.
Demian, bro, in the house.
Good to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I'm stoked that you're here. I've been wanting to talk to you just about life and art and the pursuit of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And I always like to start, food's always like a pretty universally good and safe starting topic for anyone.
For sure.
And it's always funny to hear where different people are meeting me with what they ingested that morning, the responses.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we'll start with some context, which is, for those viewers out there and listeners, welcome. Can you just talk about how the words that you like to wear when speaking about your creative pursuits? How do you describe that to people that you meet, that you encounter?
For sure. Well, yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for quite a time. So, I've kind of refined it a little bit. I feel like it's always becoming more refined, but generally I use the words nature inspired and art from the heart, So these are my heart works, You can call them artworks, but heartworks to me is a nice, living heartwork, something that's really living, vibrating, coming from my heart to the people. So, and it's inspired from nature. So it's basically, in a nutshell, what I do. And woodblock prints happens to be the kind of my specialty. So nature inspired woodblock prints is one thing I kind of represent, I suppose.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
When you said you've been doing it for a while. When did you start on this journey of printing?
So I discovered printmaking in college at UC Santa Cruz in 2003.
Wow.
So that's when I took my intro to printmaking.
First year of college.
And first year of college. And I really enjoyed it, but actually didn't immediately jump head first into it. I actually ended up doing a lot of painting classes and drawing and murals, public art, while I was also doing an environmental studies undergraduate. So I did a double major. And then at a certain point, I realized this was an amazing printmaking studio they had, and took some more courses and ended up kind of making it my focus for my art degree, with the focus specifically more on the woodblock prints. But I also studied intaglio copperplate etching, lithography, printing from the limestone, and also linoleum cuts. And after UCSC, I also studied screen printing at Cabrillo College. So, I basically learned different types, but the woodblock for me has always been the most natural, and it being wood and me doing mostly nature art.
Yeah.
And I also really love the Japanese woodblock artists. The stuff I've seen has really inspired me. But as far as art goes, it's really, there is no beginning. From birth, basically, I feel like I was always making art. And we were in Waldorf school as a kid, me and my brother. So the art's always been flowing, and the printmaking just became a new medium for me that allowed me to distribute my art in an original way to more people than just one watercolor, say, or one original oil painting. Because now, once you finish the wood block, you can, print up to a couple hundred prints if you have good quality wood, and each one is considered an original.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's an interesting way of thinking about it. It begs the question, like, because I think it's interesting. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, like, at what stage of the, excuse me, at what stage of the evolution of technology does it start to feel dystopian to people? Like, I'm someone who's kind of got, I think we were talking about this before the podcast. Like, I have a foot in both worlds of like the tech and the Luddite kind of earthy rooted folks. And I like have a lot of love, and just a lot of love for both. And it's always interesting for me, especially like in music, where people draw the line of like, this is when the technology becomes like Babylon, or it gets to a place where like I get off the train. And so thinking on that spectrum, and thinking about something like printmaking off of wood blocks, which at some stage in evolution was this big technological leap. I'm curious, like, when you moved from, doing these watercolors, doing these paintings, to a more industrialized process of creating, like how that affected the way that you think about your art, the way that, the creativity. Did you notice like a change in your perspective when you switched mediums like that?
Well, I would say I never really viewed it as like a, I guess, more advanced form of technology so much, the woodblock printing, because it is this ancient craft, from Japan and Korea and China. They've been doing for, hundreds, if not over 1,000 years. So, you could definitely say people have been painting and drawing much longer than that, knowing these cave paintings exist all over the world. But what I really loved about it is the craft. And because I was always an artist, but didn't think so much about crafts. And printmaking really is a craft. And even I feel like my understanding of crafts has evolved so that even drawing can be viewed as a craft. It's not necessarily art drawing, because there's methods, there's technique. Art, I think more of, it's the creation and the vision, and it's the overarching thing, but the craft is how you actually make this thing, So printmaking has many, many steps. Most of it's in the preparation. The final printing is like the last fun step. So the carving of the block, the transferring of your image, the preparation of the paper, the mixing of your inks, the registration of your images. All of these are like part of the craft. And
so would you say like that the craft is like the real world expression of the art? Like, it sounds like you're saying the art lives more in the intangible, almost in the mind, whereas the craft is the execution of those ideas, or just trying to get on the same page?
I think we live in a world where craft is being lost.
Interesting.
And we focus on art, but craft is like this ancient part of all cultures that has always existed. And in this more modern culture, like you're saying, with more technology, craft is being lost more and more, because we're just using technology as a tool to do all these things that we used to be doing by hand, which are known as crafts. Machines make our clothing, machines make baskets. You can get a laser cutter to carve your woodblock for you, you know? And my teacher even had one, like, showed me his woodblock. He had laser cutted, and personally, I was never too drawn, because I enjoy the handwork of it and being able to tell people I did this by hand. And not that I'm against it. It's just I resonate with the craft part of it. And it's a deep meditation, the craft, because the art for me, like I say, it's the vision. When that's born, that could come at any moment, and you just have to be, as an artist, aware and conscious, and then write it down or do a mini sketch when you have these moments where a vision will come to you of something you want to produce and share with the people. but then actually manifesting it, you put your skills and together, and that's the craft of it. So so I love that part. It's really a meditation. Once you have the vision, and you're just carrying it out, and it's like you're not thinking really, you're just doing. And so like the vision is the being, I guess, and rather the vision is the doing, and then the craft is the being. You're not thinking anymore.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, which seems like it takes a lot of effort and work to get to that place where you're able to just be with the creation. I think early on in people's journeys with making stuff, whether you're calling it art or crafts, I think in the beginning, like at least in my experience with making things, I feel like I have to be intensely focused during every stage of the process, like whether I'm even with like videography or a podcast, or if I'm doing a drawing. But I do think that like over the course of doing your 10,000 hours and you're making all the, you're honing your craft over time, it does get to be something I think that a lot of accomplished or just experienced, seasoned artists talk about, being able to sink more and more into the flow state where you're like losing yourself in the practice.
Yeah, totally. It's like, those magic hours between 12 and 6 a.m. where everyone's sleeping and you tap in and you're just in the flow state, like you're saying.
Are those your key productive hours?
It used to be. I was always like, doing those hours when I was a bit younger, like in college, and then first years after college, when I had my first studio in Santa Cruz, I'd often have these like group shows we'd do or different gallery shows, and then I'd be working down to the wire and do a lot of late night pieces, and I still do sometimes now, but I've actually kind of tapped into a lifestyle now that allows me to enter the flow state anytime. So for me, it's been valuable to not just rely on like, that time is a special time, and I'm still open to doing art then, but I'm definitely not reliant on it. And so, I've been more in the going to sleep early, getting up early mode the last years, and usually actually do my art in the afternoon, or in the morning, like later morning, sometimes occasionally early morning, but generally I'm doing more, exercising and yoga and different things like that before I go do my work. And so I just kind of build up the energy levels and the inspiration so that I can enter that flow state at will, rather than just, okay, let's wait until 3 a.m. when it's definitely a bit stronger, the cosmic energy,
Yeah. The spirit world's a little closer. I feel like I have a very similar pattern. Like the mornings are usually like my self-care, yoga, meditation time. I usually get started on my projects around, between 12 and 2, depending. And then it's like I got a good 4 hours usually until sunset. And like I've learned that about myself, that like trying to force myself into like this standardized chunk of time, whether it's 8 hours or 10 hours or 6 hours, doesn't really serve the creative purpose. And that I usually end up like 4 to 6 hours is kind of when I'm here in this room working, I'll have film shoots that'll be 12 hours easy. 15 hours, and that's fine. I'll be in flow on set, and it's like there's all this infrastructure around that's to support that the expression of that energy.
Totally.
But when I'm like doing my own projects in my room, I think I'm similar to you in that regard, where it's like if I'm going to be self-motivated today, like these are office hours 2 to 6.
Right. Yeah, I don't set any type of hours. I wake up without an alarm. Nice. For me, it's just all about being free. And if you're not making that a priority, in my view, then you're on the wrong path, whatever that may mean. You know, and strive to be free, and for that purpose alone. Not that the freedom's going to bring you some other thing, you know?
Right.
The freedom itself, that is the joy. There's no separation, you know, because freedom brings this sense of feeling, I guess, or sense of being that just feels right, whatever that may mean to you. But yeah, it's for me really important not to have like these constricting time where I have to work from this. I had plenty of jobs where I had to do that, and then becoming self-employed, that's the blessing of it, is I can choose my own hours.
Yeah.
And I can be flexible to where, you know, especially living in Switzerland, you know, most of the year, like it's a country where you don't have sun necessarily every day, and you may have periods of rain or overcast for several days a week. And then once the sun comes out, to be able to be disattached and just drop whatever you're doing and go out into the sun, that's something a lot of people can't do who are working a 9 to 5, you know? So I can do that, and I do that. You know, I just drop the project and I go into nature whenever it's calling, you know, just hear the call. Like, and that's kind of what life is about for me, is just when I'm called upon, I answer the call. But I'm not, you know, calling upon myself of more than what feels right. You know, it's coming out at a rate that feels right and is in accordance with universe. And like Lao Tzu says, you know, nature is not in a rush, yet everything gets accomplished. So kind of just learning from these sages and just nature itself, you know, the seasons are changing, but it's not like one day over the next, it's winter to fall. I mean, fall to winter.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Or winter to fall if you're rushing through your year, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Do you, like, how do you, what's the process like for like choosing which images or creating the images that you make prints from? Like what, that early stage where the rubber meets the road of your own consciousness and inspiration and creativity. Have you, you know, can you describe what your process is like from, how do you come up with these cool images that you put on things?
Yeah, thanks that you say they're cool. You know, I just basically make a bunch of art, and then naturally some of the pieces speak the strongest somehow. It's all vibration. Everything is vibration in this world. So each piece is vibrating a different message, and certain ones have a stronger message than others. And it's pretty easy for me to know, okay, this is the one that needs to be broadcast.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a big choice. Okay, I'm going to carve this block. Now this is going to be hundreds of prints and maybe thousands, because I'll maybe take that image and make a t-shirt or postcards too. So it is a big decision, but for some reason it's never very hard for me to choose which next piece I'll do, because I spend so long on each piece. I have tons of time to kind of think of which will be my next piece. And by the time I finish one piece, I'm more than ready to start on the next. So by then it's easily clear, and often it'll be a piece that's building on a previous piece. That's part of what makes it easy. Is just because I'm building on a series, like with these sprouting seed worlds, for example. It was easy for me just to know, okay, now I'm doing the pine. You know, I've done the oak, done the avocado, you know, I've done the corn. Naturally, the squash is waiting to be done. So there's a bunch of pieces that are clear for me that I want to do. And then I'll just have a priority of all the ones that are asking to be made into wood blocks, you know.
You've built this container that allows you to be like creative inside of it, because it's like there's a set now, right? Like, of course, like I found that in my own creative pursuit, it's the constraints, like speaking of to freedom, but like the constraints, the boxes that I have to squeeze this boundless possibility into, they end up being like very helpful in channeling, you know, my creative choices into some level of coherence.
For sure.
And, you know, you look throughout history, I think a lot of the most like profound and moving pieces of art are the work of overcoming constraint and obstacles.
Oh yeah.
Wrestling with the limitations of your craft or the technology you have or the real world situations you find yourself in.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. I've definitely found at times in my life where I've had challenges, that's when some of the most powerful visions come to me for my art pieces. Not necessarily the creating of them, because I'll often be too busy, you know, dealing with that issue in my life, whatever it may be, confronting it and you know, devoting time to it, and not running away from it. But out of the hardship, out of the darkness comes the light, so they say. So I agree. You know, the hardship, you know, you look back in retrospect and you see, oh, that happened for a reason.
Right.
And
but even like with, I agree with all that, and I think that it's cool that even with you know, this idea of like the seed worlds, right? Mm-hmm. You've created this constraint artificially, that's then allowed you to be like, you can fill this box now with like raw creative energy, and there's a focusing. It's a lens that you can focus this raw creative energy in to create something that's like coherent that people get, right? People look at, oh, it's a world in an acorn, you know, oh, it's a world in a avocado, you know. By doing that work of building the container, every time you sit down to make a new print, if you choose to work within this container, it's like you don't have to come up with the idea of like, oh, I'm going to make a world in a seed. It's like you've built that container already, so you can just, in a way, it's like you were saying, like, I think that's the craft, right? Like that you've done the work beforehand to create this tool, which is like the theme of the image, so that you can sit in your flow state and do all the lines inside that like build the world within the seed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like definitely having a theme, and a container, like you're saying, it's very helpful for just having some continuity and building a series. Like it's like telling a story, and it's not as scattered and random as it could be. And there's nothing wrong with it being scattered and random, but there is something interesting to build a story and to have a theme woven through your pieces. And I think it's definitely found in most artists' best work, you know, and musicians too. There's a certain theme and keep touching back to it, but not limit yourself within that too, because this idea could be, from the seeds, could be any, you know, an image within anything. Like you could have the world within a crystal, you can have the world within a flower, you can have the world within anything. And oneness is the message. So in a reflection of oneness in every unique part of the creation. We all come from the same source, yet we are all unique expression. So the illusion is otherness, but oneness is the reality. So looks are deceiving, you know?
Yeah.
And so this is part of the message in my works, is just cutting through the illusion so that people see the oneness. Because if you look at a seed, you may see something different than I see, because I grow the seed into a big plant, you know, and I can see the creation in the seed. Someone who's never gardened or sprouted a seed just sees a round piece of material and has no idea of its potential. So telling the story of the seed as it goes through the stages and becomes its full potential, that's what I'm doing in the seed series. Okay. And so it's kind of like edutainment, what they say in reggae and stuff, you know. It's like it's not just entertainment, it's not just an image, but when you study it, you can start to see things and learn from it potentially if you want to.
I love that. Do all your prints start out as drawings? Is that like the first thing? Do you do a sketch?
Yeah, I would say it first starts out as a really rough sketch, and then from there I'll do a drawing, and then I'll transfer that to the wood and I'll carve it. So as I'm carving it, it becomes a whole nother image, because the drawing is a very detailed like shading, and to do shading on the wood block, you're just doing lines, various size lines placed certain distance from each other. So it becomes more of an illustration, you could say. or more of an illustrative style, you can never achieve like what a drawing is with pencil as a woodblock print. So accepting that and just, yeah, not being too attached to the drawing is a big part of my process. I always reference the drawing because it's really important for knowing the right tones and the contrast, to do the drawing justice with the woodblock while allowing it to become its own creation is basically the dance I'm doing.
Nice, dude. How do you deal with mistakes?
Well, I do that just by working really slowly. Yeah, so that when I make a mistake, no one will ever notice it.
Okay.
And I can easily turn that mistake into just part of the piece.
Yeah.
Because I'm just doing very small. It's like basically all my pieces are like thousands upon thousands of very small strokes. So if you make one small stroke that's a mistake, more than likely no one will notice. And like I said, not having attachment to the original drawing. Okay, I'll create a new cloud here, or there will be a different detail over here.
This tree's got an extra branch today. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, the openness there is really important. And then, to be honest though, like it's really the slow pace. I tell you, I basically don't make mistakes anymore. It's like there'll be maybe a couple little slips of the knife in a whole woodblock print, but they're very small and unnoticeable. Just because when it comes to carving, I pretty much don't ever carve more than like 1 hour per day. That's a whole nother thing than drawing. I might spend several hours on a drawing in a day or more, but I will not carve for more than up to a couple hours because it's a whole nother thing. For one, it can become really tiring on your joints. Carving wood is not as nearly as easy as it is drawing.
Is that a limit that you've like consciously put on the work, or?
No, it's more just like what I know I'm comfortable doing. So I just naturally just usually carve for like half an hour or an hour. And then if anything, I'll take a break and come back and do another session. But beyond 2 hours per day is very rare. Only if I have some crazy deadline have I done. Definitely have done. That's how I learned through, you learn through experience, you know, and many times, I carve a bunch of hours in a day. But what ends up happening is, you often make mistakes and you mess up your tools. So really devoting the time to doing the proper cuts and then sharpening your tools, you know, regularly, and having patience for just this piece will be done when it's done rather than me forcing some type of due date on it. That is my recipe for creating my best works.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a very similar thing with my with the videos that I make, especially with like the music videos, because a lot of times those are when I get to be my most creative, the least amount of constraints, right? The most amount of raw flow. And I have this phase that I've named like the wandering in the desert phase. It happens on every video where like it's usually like between the first and second edit. So I'll like get the edit done, or even sometimes before even finishing the edit, I'll be in that period where I'm just like, I don't know what this is going to be. You know? I know that I shot some good looking stuff. I have no idea what it's going to look like.
For sure.
And in the beginning of this journey, that used to really like rock me. It was like a very like emotional experience of just like, I'm a failure. Like, I don't know what to do. These people are expecting this art from me. Like, God, this is uncomfortable. And then over time, through going through that process, I've come to accept, like, now when I get to that place, I'm like, oh, here it is. You know, like, here we go. I'm wandering I got to wander in the desert a while. And I know I'm going to figure it out. And to me, that's what's one of the biggest joys of the work that I get to do, is going out into the unknown of my mind, of like knowing that I can't see the end. I don't know where this piece is going to be, but I have the faith through my own experience that like this is just part of the process, and there will be a day that I sit down, because there always is, and I know exactly what to do. I know what the choices are that need to be made, and then sitting down and doing it, that feeling is like, man, like this is living, this is art, this is what it's all about. You know, like I slayed the dragon, I rode the wave. You know, like it's what I love about creation.
Yeah. And the dragon is your own mind, getting in the way. So yeah, just humble yourself. You don't know it all. Can't know it all. You never will know it all. Even if you spent all your life reading all these books, you'll never read them all. So basically just accepting the unknown and being open and flexible with the piece becoming what it's becoming. That's really, for me, that's the flow state. You're not in the flow state if you're attached to some idea in your mind what it needs to be when it's finished, because it will never be that. So it's good to have, a plan, a rough plan and some framework, but then within that really allowing this thing to become what it's meant to be. That's kind of the activity,
Yeah,
in all
yeah.
art, I think it's definitely, it's important just to be open to what it becomes rather again than what you think it should be or something like that.
Right. Totally. How long on average would you say it takes from like sketch to, I know this kind of flies in the face of everything we just said, but like on average for you, when you're making a piece, like from like those first lines you're putting down of your concept to the final print, what's that process? Is there a average length of time that it seems to take to go through that for you?
Yeah, I always give answers. I get that question a lot and I give answers, but I'm always internally questioning, am I even saying the truth? Because I don't actually count my hours.
Yeah.
I just simply know, these pieces take me months. My average piece will slowly work on a drawing over several weeks. And I estimate it's usually between 30 and 50 hours, the drawing. And then the carving will usually take me longer than that. And that takes me months usually, because like you heard, I usually don't carve more than like an hour per day.
Right.
And not necessarily even every day.
Yeah.
So a woodblock may take me anywhere between 2 months and 6 months to finish. So on average, I usually only bust like up to 4 woodblocks per year, and many drawings. And I just choose certain drawings to do the woodblock, but I just am commonly sketching in nature or just drawing different things. And then, I don't have time to make them all into woodblock prints. So like I was saying, I'll just feel the vibrations and naturally know which one I want to choose for the woodblock,
That's a sweet sunbeam, or that tree needs to be immortalized.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Either you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
And you can't expect every piece that you create to have it, because it's really dependent on your mind state. So that's why, again, I put the emphasis on my lifestyle to get into this flow state, so that basically all my drawings are in the flow state. They could feasibly be made into woodblock prints. But yeah, sometimes, you're just not in it. So, and that's okay though, it's still good just to create. And, but yeah, it's the goal, is just to be in the oneness state, so that when you do create, the drawing reflects the oneness state, and we'll have something unique, which could then be worth it to spend all this time to carve.
Sure. Yeah, it's something that I like to say to a lot of people just starting out in the journey of creation, like trying to make art or trying to make crafts or whatever. Like, creativity takes a lot of resources, internal resources, to be creative, to be engaged in that space. It takes a lot of energy, at least for myself. And I've learned really in my life that like just how much downtime I require to be like so, expressive with energy, to make something that I feel worthy of sharing with the world. And I think that like when I was just starting out, I would get really guilty about that. And I'd be like, man, I feel so lazy. Like I didn't do anything for the last 4 days. But then on the 5th day, I made something that's really cool.
All right.
And to me, it's like getting out of so many of us are introduced to like the idea of industriousness, of creation through like getting a job, working at a company, on the clock, doing a 9 to 5, X amount of hours a week equals X amount of pay. And I think that there's a lot of people where, myself included, where that's like an inherently painful definition of life. And I had to do a lot of unlearning about like what life should look like.
True, yeah.
To be able to get back to reclaiming like pride in my work, and therefore the kind of inspired presence to want to make. Because for years I wanted to be creative, but when I would try to turn on that channel, I would feel like I don't even want to do anything. I don't even want to do the things I want to do. I feel so like stuck in the feeling of being lazy or not being enough. And I almost had to go and accept that side of myself to then come back around and like be productive.
For sure.
Productivity that's a dragon.
Yeah, especially the productivity that's pushed on us by society. I mean, I've gotten better and better over the years at just laughing at these expectations people may have. And the main, thing is, some inner expectation that's kind of pushed on us of how productive you're supposed to be. But yeah, like listening to a lot of teachers, spiritual teachers, and poets like Rumi. I know he went through a period, one of the best poets of all time, where he didn't write anything for years. So when I learned that, I was like, okay, it's okay to work at a slow pace. And it's okay to even not make any art for a year or multiple years. Like, it's really all about listening, or at least having the balance between listening and speaking in this context being creating. So, they say even the fool is considered wise when he's silent. And everyone keeps his mouth shut.
That's great. Yeah, I like that.
And you have 2 ears, you have 1 mouth. So you also have 2 eyes. So for me, it's like the listening and the seeing and then the speaking, it's important, but actually the other parts are more important. That's where the vision comes from, is the observing.
Right.
And so if you're always talking, you're always making, then there's not enough time for the absorbing of the universal energy and the visions that come through the dreams. Listening to your dreams is one thing too, So yeah, it's good to be in tune with the listening and not feeling some type of pressure where you're supposed to speak too much, create too much, whatever it may be.
Do you ever have ideas for prints come in dreams? Like, have you had any of your prints come to you in the dream world?
I don't know if I've made any woodblock prints from dreams, more of drawings I've made from some dreams and paintings. But I feel like just, being in nature on a hike or maybe sitting in meditation, looking into the fire on a dark winter night, I have these visions that are comparable to dreams. They may not be when I'm sleeping, but it's very similar to a dream where it's a certain image that just enters my mind, that comes from the ethers, whatever you want to call it, somewhere that's, you didn't plan it. And it's, it's because you're open and tapped in. So mainly I think my visions come in the so-called conscious state, where I'm actually in like a meditation alpha wave, relaxed state. But no, I have had powerful visions also come in my dreams. Unfortunately, or whatever, I haven't made that many pieces of art from those dreams. But yeah, it's never too late. And I'm definitely like planning on, doing more of that. I'd like to work more with that. I recently actually had a powerful dream of, it was actually right on the night of that eclipse that we had, which we couldn't actually see in Switzerland, but I knew it was happening.
Yeah.
And so I was definitely feeling the eclipse energy and had this vision of, in the dream, of kind of similar to the Rock of Gibraltar. Like I have a woodblock print of the Rock of Gibraltar, looking at it from Morocco and the mist and the sunset, and it was a full moon. And in the dream, you can see it wasn't necessarily the Rock of Gibraltar, but it was these mountains with like the mists, and then the eclipse. You could see the moon, being covered by the shadow of the sun, and or I guess in this case, the sun being covered by the shadow of the moon is what the vision was.
Right.
With the rock and the ocean, it was just like clear to me, like, and I did a drawing of it. So it's like in my diary, it's like that's ready to go. It's
Yeah.
definitely
It's going to be one.
going to get manifested, I feel like, on a bigger scale. And could lead to a special series of like, okay, these are specifically from dreams, completely from my imagination, not looking at any type of photos that I took, which are often in my pieces, like photos I've taken are part of the image or collage I've made to make the vision. And then I do the drawing from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, like, how much of your drawings are like the product of observation externally versus internally? Like, do you have still life integrated into there, or is it like mostly from like an image in your mind when you're sitting down to create?
Well, a lot of my nature pieces, just like landscapes, do come from like drawings or watercolors I did right in nature, which I just straight transfer to the wood. Or I may start the drawing in nature, and if it gets dark or I'm backpacking or something and I run out of time, I'll just finish that drawing with the photos I took. And then this series with the seeds is more, like I say, the collage. Yeah, there's the sprouting avocado.
You got what? That's the acorn?
This is the sprouting acorn. Yeah, cosmic oak or cosmic acorn. So it also involves research of like, okay, what does the root of an oak tree look like? Let's look through Google Images, and find the best image that's going to work for this piece. And so, I'm not going to call it scientific or botanical illustration, but it's influenced by that, like the real research I've done of what does the underground, what do the roots of these trees, plants actually look like, for example. And then it's combined with, definitely certain just imaginative elements of the clouds. I wasn't looking at a photo or anything, or the stars or anything like that. But parts of it may be based on, collage of different photos I've merged in Photoshop, which I use as reference for the drawing.
That's dope, dude. It makes me think about my own experience with that. Like in Guatemala this year in August, me and my brother were doing a yoga retreat, and I wanted to journal. But when I sat down to write, I was like, I don't really want to write any words. So I drew a picture instead. And then the next day I drew a picture, and I realized, like, early on in my trip, like, I'm just going to do a cartoon journal. So I started doing these little cartoons, like, that included symbols and just visual storytelling, like this imagery to talk about what I went through in my day. And I found that I was able to be much more candid about the emotional journey I was on, because I could like almost hide, like I could show my drawings to anyone that I was with, and they're not going to know exactly what this image means to me, or they're going to get their own meaning out of it. So then I started when I got back, my brother had this great idea. He was like, you should make this into like an Instagram account and start sharing these images. And so I try to do like one a week, but my whole reason of bringing it up was, what I found in the process is like sometimes I'll sit down to draw. A lot of times what I've been doing lately is like recreating events in a cartoon form. If I went to a cool party, or, I'm like mining my memory of like what happened recently that I could make a cartoon about this week. So it was Thanksgiving, and I was like, man, like, how do I draw a cartoon turkey? So then I went on the World Wide Web on Google, and I like looked at a bunch of different cartoon turkeys until I found the one. I was like, yep, that's the image. And then I sat down and tried to like approximate it, and it came out my own version of, I see what you're saying. Like, I think that even when I go to do like a literal translation of another image, it's going to be filtered through my psyche. And I like living in that place where I'm not like doing the one-to-one exact copy, but it's like an expression that's been influenced by the thing that I'm looking at.
Yeah, it's really learning is what it is. Like, you study something and you see what it is. I mean, you never see fully what it is. It's just a slice of what it is, because in reality, I mean, who really knows, right? But like, ultimate reality, the way I perceive it, is actually more vibrations we can't see. And what we're seeing is just a certain manifestation of vibration, but like the energy of the universe, the cosmic energy of the universe, the solar radiation that's coming in from the sun, from the stars, even the magnetism from the center of the earth, that gravity. You can't see gravity,
Right.
but it's this law that is very important. Like, you know what I mean? So basically most things you actually can't see in reality. So being humble to that. But yeah, what we do see, observe, and then you're capturing the essence. And once you've understood the essence of it, that's what you're translating in the image. So it's not about trying to be perfectly photorealistic. That won't even be interesting usually. So art is more interesting when you have high contrast, when you capture the essence of something and translate it in an original way.
Yeah.
That's what true art is.
Totally.
So if you ask me, that's coming from your heart because it's your own unique perception of it, not someone else's perception of it that you're copying. You know what I mean? So
that's it's one of the things that I've loved in this process as I've done drawings with, of memories with friends in them. Sometimes I'll, if I don't know how to draw a friend's face, I'll go look at a picture of them, find a picture that I like. And then it's like, what are the couple distinguishing features so that it'll look like them enough? But then the cartoonization of it is also bringing I don't want it to be one-to-one, like a photorealistic image. It's like, no, this is in the Hobie cartoon style.
For sure.
Yeah. And I've had these experiences with people where I show them, a great example is our mutual friend, Ryan Creighton, who you grew up on the same street as.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And I hung out, I had a great conversation with him one night, and then I decided to make that one of the themes in that week's cartoon journal. And I went and looked up a picture of him, and I was like, what is, okay, looking at his, at his expression and his face, I'm like, what are the couple lines I can put in that will these 3 lines will communicate, the art of cartoon work, I think, is how do you give more information out with less detail?
True.
And suggest rather than tell. And I was able to do this thing where he looked at it, he's like, dude, that's me. I make that face. That's exactly with my hands. That's exactly what I do. He was so pumped. And to me, that was such a rewarding moment. I felt so seen as an artist, and I felt so understood that did it really look 100% like him? Maybe not one-to-one, but the essence was there. What you were just describing, exactly. I felt like I captured the vibe of this person in this moment.
It's true. Yeah. It's so important. There's this concept that one of my favorite painters, he's kind of an old school guy, but from Switzerland, called Ferdinand Hodler. He has this concept called parallelism.
Okay.
And kind of a lot of his works, you'll see the reflection of the sky in the lake, for example, is a good example of parallelism. You have a repeating pattern. And again, it's not important that it looks exactly like it did. It's just that it has this element of sacred geometry, of reflection, of something that's connected to the oneness again, something that brings harmony.
Yeah.
Somehow some order again within the chaos, something like that. And so, I kind of resonate with his idea there, the parallelism. It's pretty important. Again, it's similar to the essence. It's not, again, the exact, it's not what, it's how. And so if you do it in a unique way that somehow is interesting, usually, within nature, reflections, and patterns, that's basically curves and movement, your eyes moving around the thing, and the circle in the end is kind of, we live on a globe. So to kind of have the eye moving around the image in a circle is kind of something I, somewhat strive for in my pieces, that there's movement basically everywhere. Your eye is moving around the image. It's living, it's vibrating, Do
you design your pieces to be digested and that kind of reductionist way. Not saying reductionist with any value attached, like judgment value attached, but when you think about your pieces, is the experience of the audience or the person looking at your art, are you imagining them like looking through your pieces, like the eyes are, rather than taking it all in as one whole, like playing in a direction over the piece?
I don't necessarily plan like, oh, the eye's going to move, counterclockwise, from this point around. Right. There's no way I can really do that.
Yeah.
The idea is more that there's just movement basically everywhere. And there's harmony everywhere. And then there's a balance of light and dark. That's basically the art of like making a really good black and white image, is like having a certain balance of light and dark. And then the shading and the toning helps you there. But yeah, that's definitely, I look at my works from a distance, to just gauge when I feel like, oh, this is now achieved that state when I'm done with it. Otherwise, I'll just keep toning. Maybe I'll erase. I'll do whatever it needs to do to be in that harmony state I'm going for. I won't know what that is until it's done. But yeah, it's kind of the idea is just, there's the rain coming down here, the sun rays are being cast here, the roots are moving down here, the shooting stars up. Everywhere you look, there's movement and living, breathing nature, expression of the divine, have you.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I've noticed about your works, your prints as well, especially with these, the sprouting seed ones, is there is so much motion and energy contained in these images. I don't think I've even like spent sufficient time looking into it. I put it on my body. I'm wearing a shirt of yours right now. And like, I could probably spend some more time looking in these corners.
Slowly discover parts at the right pace.
Yeah. But I love that. I think it's funny. I bought 2 shirts off you this year, and they're both like very sacred to me. Like, I've noticed this about myself. I have a whole drawer that's like my special shirts that I don't really wear almost ever. And so I've been trying to check in with that. Like, I have like my normal shirts that I work out in, or that I like, will wear on just a normal day if I'm not seeing anybody. And then I have my like shirts that I go out in, or that I do a podcast in, or that I, they're shirts for the world.
Yeah.
And these ones are definitely like, I think I've probably worn this shirt less than 5 times since I got it for you.
That's why it's looking so good.
Right. And so that's the intention, right? Is like, I want to be able to like come out and have it looking really fresh.
For sure.
But in the last year or two, I've like questioned that practice, and I'm like, well, which way is the most enjoyable? Like if it's a shirt I love, some might argue that I should wear it like almost every day, or, like once a week, or
totally.
So, not that I'm judging either way, but just I've noticed that I have this interesting shirt pattern in my life.
Well, yeah, if you're not like me and sitting on like literally, probably 1,000 shirts, or I don't know exactly what my inventory, probably over 1,000 shirts right now.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, it's probably wise to like separate and have like, I'm not that good at that. Like, I usually just wear the cream of the crop, and then have this like big pile of older shirts and that I'm just like slowly converting into rags while I do printmaking.
Nice. There you go.
So yeah, I somewhat justify like
the elephant graveyard.
I don't have to buy any other rags, But yeah, of course, for like running or whatever, it's nice to have some shirts that like, you have like certain shirts that aren't your cream of the crop. And
of course.
For gardening or working,
Totally.
But yeah, it's been a cool thing for me to not have to buy t-shirts for like, literally haven't bought a single t-shirt in over 11 years because I just produce t-shirts,
Yeah,
so
do you just wear your
I try
shirts
not to like take too many new shirts. Like I literally like I wear shirts for years, They're good quality and the image doesn't fade right away. But yeah, it's kind of in line with the whole self-sufficiency thing, is like, I mean, an even greater vision, who knows if it will ever come to fruition, is like this idea of seed to shirt. And like, cause I grow a lot of food that I eat, and Have experimented with growing some grains. I haven't really done much for fiber, but like it all interests me. Like, say growing a big field of flax to make some linen shirts, or of course hemp.
Right.
Like, how cool would that be?
Yeah,
If I
totally.
can
What
not
are these?
only
What are these shirts made out of? They're so comfortable.
these are just 100% organic cotton,
Okay.
and yeah, that's also the next best. That's where I'm at right now, and I'm happy with it. But I'm also always seeing like, room for improvement with not only my craft but the way I'm producing the shirts. I'd like to maybe start working with some natural dyers, or possibly investing in the material myself to like make some hand dyed indigo shirts, for example.
That'd be dope.
And maybe have like a separate line of like, okay, these ones are a little more expensive because I hand dyed them all myself. So people are even more aware of like, what goes into this stuff. So yeah, there's so much potential, like the
Yeah.
way I see it. You can either see scarcity or you can see abundance. And I
Yeah.
just see abundance of possibilities. And again, it's just about choosing what's speaking the strongest. And like I said, for now, that's kind of would be my first vision if I was going to do hand dyed, to do some indigo, because it's such a beautiful color. And, I have a blue shirt anyway. So it's like, anyway,
The
yeah,
indigo line, dude.
for sure.
I love
For
it.
sure.
I got into
Clay
that.
dyeing too is also
What is it? What's that one?
clay dyed
Clay
shirt
dyed
would
shirts.
be also something I'd be interested to get, like a nice like pipestone kind of light pinkish. I had this Bob Marley shirt back in the day that was like dyed with the clay, and I wore it until it just done. So
Disintegrated, yeah.
there's endless possibilities, but yeah, I'm hoping to kind of fine tune the whole thing into that, like going the next level with beyond just organic.
Beyond organic.
Yeah.
B-O.
Yeah.
That's dope. Like, I remember in Costa Rica last year, I came across like a banana fabric shirt, banana
Oh,
fiber,
nice. Okay.
which was like surprisingly soft. It was so comfortable.
Uh-huh.
It might have been a cotton hybrid but I was like, oh, you can do shirts with banana.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen clothing, but I've bought paper out of banana. And
Yeah.
like when I did certain lion image for my friend years ago in New York City, I went to the New York Central Art Supply, and they have just one of the best selection of paper I've ever seen. And I test printed this image of the lion and all these different yellow papers. And one of them was like the banana. It had a really nice thick
Yeah.
texture, and I ended up choosing the papyrus for the image.
Nice.
But there's just a plethora of different materials you can print on, also just directly with the woodblock. So I try to experiment with different papers too. And of course, yeah, like getting my own paper maker. That's a whole nother dream I've had for some years, like making my own paper.
Yeah.
Would
Building the
also be
network
really
out.
cool for, making it more closed loop on my printmaking.
Cool.
And of course, pigments, there's just like so much possibility.
Yeah,
You can
so
just,
much deep dives.
it's just a matter of like finding the time to do these things. And
Are you still a one-man shop, or you got collaborators? Or?
well, I mean, in terms of my art making, I'm pretty much a one-man show. Occasionally, I've had a few friends help me with printing my wood blocks to just speed things up. If I am under a deadline, I can whip out way more prints with some help, but it's super occasional. And then the t-shirts I do, have been hiring someone to print the shirts, and I'm there to like mix the colors and make sure it all goes right. But since I don't really have the facility to produce shirts on a bigger scale, I've basically, hired people to do the printing. And then I even hired someone to be sending shirts out for me, from my storage unit in California while I'm in Switzerland. So I kind of, yeah, it's not like he's putting out a ton of orders, but like, yeah, I have been slowly getting some help, and it's been helping me. Just, yeah, having more time, obviously, like to have enough funding financially gives you more time
Totally.
to do all types of stuff. So, yeah, to have some help has been giving me more time to invest in different projects, and I'm hoping it just continues the way it is. I mean, the way it's looking, it's a slow growth, but steady getting better and better. In terms of being able to support myself, and offering me more and more time to to be open to doing new forms of art, like even beyond the printmaking. I've been meaning to kind of start doing some of my art onto ceramic plates, for example. I've taken some ceramic classes, and not to limit myself to one medium, even though woodblock prints are my specialty. I've done a lot of painting in the past, and I've done ceramics. So I'm definitely, as things get more financially successful, also like more and more open to devoting time to other projects beyond the printmaking. For now, it's good for me to kind of focus mainly on the woodblock prints, or it has been in the last years, and I definitely want to stay with it. But at the same time, have these other interests I'd like to pursue. So not.
I was going to ask you, when am I going to be able to get one of these sweet seeds on a coffee mug? Dude, these would look so cool on a coffee mug.
For sure. Yeah, I was thinking on farmers market bags, like the tote bags
right.
would be kind of a classic thing to put the seeds on to go shop for your produce with the avocado.
Oh, that's 1-to-1, or like a hat,
True.
Get a cool logo on a hat, or
the redwood tree on some socks or something like that. Like there's so much potential. One of my stores was telling me I should do underwear.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, you never
human
know.
seed, dude.
So they're like, it's our number one seller, like these silk boxer shorts. I'm like, think about doing that. Like, I want some silk underwear.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
Anyway, so there's just a lot of potential out there.
Nice, dude. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate your time so much. And
thanks so much, Hobart, for having me.
Such a good, we did a sauna right before this. What a great way to get the mindset for the art of podcasting.
True.
Before we cut out, how can people connect with you? What's a good place for people? Where can they find you and connect with you?
Well, the best way to see my art is actually my website. It's www.dbkprints.com.
Okay.
So DBK is Demian Bartholomew-Keller. Prints.com, all one word. There's a pretty good gallery of different woodblock prints, drawings, and t-shirts. And then Instagram, I have Demian BK_art. That's DEMIAN BK_art. And there you can also see some images of my art and, part of the process and other things in my lifestyle of growing food and hiking in the mountains and so forth.
For the audio listeners, you can attach a image to his face, or a face to his name, I should say. And do you have e-commerce on Instagram or on your website? Or
on the website, there's a web shop. So you can order my t-shirts and woodblock prints directly online.
Sweet.
And
righteous, dude. Well, dude, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Coming on, man. Found it out.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited to see the next chapter. The business is that DBK Art is the business.
Well, DBK Prints is the name of my website, and it's kind of the focus of my art is the print. So it's kind of the thing. Like I said, the Demian BK Art is my Instagram. So who knows? There may be more continuity at some point, but the website was kind of more new, and I decided to go with the prints because the woodblock prints really is my specialty and way of surviving between the t-shirts, which I do from the woodblock prints. Check it out.
Well, much love to you all out there in the digital realms.
Much love.
And thank you for tuning in, and till the next time, my friend.
Till then.
Peace.
Bless.